Excellencies, Ambassador to ASEAN, and also Excellency Charge Affair of the United States, Julie Rockledge, Ms. Yvonne Thomas, Director of Global Digital Skill Program, Microsoft Philanthropies, Mr. Leonardo Ortiz, Director of Global Field Empowerment, Microsoft Philanthropies, and Dr. Diana Bettler, Director of Microsoft Philanthropy Asia, and of course our Executive Director, Ms. Elaine Tan. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to the ASEAN Secretariat. I'm very pleased to be here today to witness the launching of the ASEAN Digital Innovation Programs that aims to provide digital skill training to young people aged 15 to 36 years in 7 ASEAN member states. This is a very, very good program, and we look forward to more of this. The launch of this program is timely, given the digital transformation that is taking place globally and the increasing focus of ASEAN's put on the 4th Industrial Revolution. The program also fits well with the theme of Thailand's ASEAN's chairmanship this year that underscores the importance of partnership. Sustainability IR brings about opportunities to address key challenge over time, unemployment and the future of work. Last year, the World Economic Forum predicted that over the next 15 years, total labor force among ASEAN member states will expand by 11,000 workers every day. More recently, the report of the Global Commission on the Future Work also highlights that ASEAN needs to create 43,000 jobs by 2030 to match labor force growth. Further, ASEAN has a total unemployment of 9 million, of which 55% are youth. And last but not least, up to 2 billion workers today work in the informal economy worldwide, and 250 million of which are in the ASEAN region. Today, the lack of digital skill acts as a barrier to full realization of potentials benefit of technology, particularly from the marginalized communities. Women across the globe, and almost twice as likely as men, to report that lack of digital skill hinders the use of the internet, while the majority of elderly, including those in the advanced economies, are still lacking access to internet. Civic engagement, particularly among the youth, has also been blocked by digital technology. All these are possible only with digital skill. I have mentioned on the several occasions that preparing for the 4IR is not always about job replacement, but it's also about training our workforce to work better aided by technologies. By some estimate, more than 100 million positions may be needed by 2022 owing to the new technology. The promise of technology will definitely not occur automatically. It requires educate policy interventions that would facilitate all of us, from the government, business, educational institutions, and right down to individual level, to step up our efforts to invest more on the programs in education, training, capacity development, particularly for the disadvantaged and those at risk of being displaced by technology. ASEAN leaders recognize that ASEAN will do well if we are able to embrace and thrive in the new era. We have followed up this. The ASEAN Secretariat has conducted the assessments of ASEAN readiness for 4.IR and are working on the way to look at this more holistically. 6 out of 13 priority economic deliverables of Thailand's 2019 ASEAN chairmanship are related to 4IR, and we are now in the process exploring a more holistic ASEAN strategy on the 4IR as the next steps. Finally, with that, I once again would like to congratulate the ASEAN Foundation and Microsoft for this great initiative. I encourage our youth, especially ASEAN youth, to take advantage of this program. Further, I hope to see more such partnership to support our youth and forge a sense of ASEAN identity as a community. I wish you all a fruitful and productive discussion this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kim, for taking the time to this ceremony and give your remarks. Now I would like to give the floor.
Very good morning, Secretary General, ambassadors from the Committee of Permanent Representatives, Mr. Basuki Yusuf Iskandar, Head of the Agency for Human Resource Development, Mr. Leonardo Ortiz Villacorta, Global Field Empowerment, Microsoft Philanthropics, my colleagues from the ASEAN Secretariat, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to be able to be here this morning to join all of you to say a few words. And recognizing that we have a tight program ahead, I will truly keep my speech very short. The launch of this program is extremely timely. Globally, digital products and services are transforming industries, enriching lives, and propelling progress. The number of internet users has grown rapidly over the last decade, and according to the ITU, approximately 2/5 of the world population are already online. People are increasingly dependent on the internet for a wide range of everyday activities, ranging from connecting with friends and family to shopping and banking. Businesses also utilize the internet extensively for their operations. From our perspective, this trend will pick up pace in the future with the advent of the fourth industrial revolution and the prevalence of Industry 4.01 technologies. If ASEAN is to transform the region into a digitally competitive one and continue to enrich the lives of our citizens, we must be at the forefront of digital economy. But I'm happy to note that the fundamentals for us are already in place. ASEAN has a robust economy with a GDP of USD 2.5 trillion, growing at an astounding rate of 6% a year. We have a literate population of approximately 640 million people, with 40% of them well below 30. Indeed, we should take advantage of these positives by encouraging policies that promote digital adoption in ASEAN, which ultimately support digital literacy and digital innovation. This will ensure that our citizens are fully aware of the benefits of the digital revolution and how technology can improve their lives. It's therefore heartening that we are focusing our events on student and young people who are naturally the prime target groups for this initiative. We need to provide an environment where digital innovation can flourish and invest in 21st century skills education. We should adapt current curriculum to incorporate technology and improve access to technology in the classrooms. Outside the classroom, more training workshops should engage the youth and inculcate such a spirit of digital innovation. I would therefore like to commend the ASEAN Foundation, particularly Elaine, for her leadership and initiative in this particular program. And I also like to take this opportunity to commend and extend our appreciation to Microsoft for its support to this particular cause. On a final note, let me wish one and all a very successful event. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cook, for your remark. Let us hear more about what digital innovation is all about that makes it so relevant in thriving in Industrial Revolution 4 through a keynote address to be delivered by Mr. Leonardo Ortiz Villacorta, Director of Global Field Empowerment, Microsoft Philanthropies. His presentation is entitled ASEAN 4.0 Digital Divide to Digital Dividends by Microsoft.
Good morning. Natolin Yokhoi, Secretary General of ASEAN, permanent representatives of ASEAN member states, Mr. Stephen Quick, Chair of ASEAN Foundation Board of Trustees, and Mrs. Elaine Tan, Executive Director of ASEAN Foundation. It's an honor for us to be here, for us at Microsoft, in this important day to start a project with such an important organization, such an important institution for the development and the success of the region. We're pretty much looking forward not only for today, but for the impact of the work that we're going to be doing together. I believe I have a few slides, so I'm gonna use some support, visual support, to talk about what we are seeing. Well, while we solve the visuals, let me start by saying that we all know that we're in the midst of an era of acceleration. We see that in many aspects of life of all of our countries around the world. We see it with migration, with environmental challenges, the economic interdependencies around the world are greater than ever. And digital technologies are part of this series of accelerations as well. There we go. Thank you very much. It looks like this is not working, so if you can help me with the slides, I would really appreciate that. So as I was saying, technology is changing very quickly. The world is becoming increasingly digital. And we see that every day. We see it in the way we work. We see it in the way that people communicate with each other, in the way we learn, in the way in which citizens are starting to interact with governments, or how we do commerce. And it's basically embedded in all aspects of life. Their technology is impacting and opening possibilities in many areas of knowledge and development. There's a few there. You know, how we are currently seeing the world of manufacturing being changed with new materials, new processes, the world of science with the ability to use technology to now do things that were unimaginable a few years back when it comes to DNA sequencing, to research, to engineering of DNA. And also, when you think about the digital world, how we are starting to see artificial intelligence, automation, and even new technologies like blockchain open up the possibilities for economies to change and for industries to start doing things in a different way. Those are important opportunities, and I think that there is an optimism about what this can bring to society. But we also need to be cautious, because with these opportunities we also see some challenges. In a world in which half of the population doesn't have access to any technology whatsoever, it's up to institutions like multilateral organizations such as ASEAN, governments, the private sector like Microsoft to be vigilant and to proactively think what to do in order to ensure that everyone can participate, in order to ensure that as we move forward and as we see all this progress enabled by the technology innovations, we're not leaving people behind and we're not widening the gap, hence the challenges that that gap can generate. And there's no area more pressing than to analyze how the world of work is now being transformed, or will start being transformed by the technology opportunity. There are new ways of doing jobs. There are, we're seeing in manufacturing, in retail, and other industries, how technology is going to change the production models. And technology is going to change how our jobs look like. This is not new. We've been listening about the fourth industrial revolution, which was already mentioned by our previous speakers. And throughout history, we have seen how whenever there is a new technology wave, there are jobs that change, even jobs that disappear. We saw it 100 years ago. And there's an interesting example of the city of New York, which used to operate with 100,000 horses before cars existed. So there were people that were employed taking care of the horses, driving the carriages, and basically making sure that the city could operate. Once the cars came in, those more than 100,000 jobs, probably a few thousands, 100,000 disappeared. They went away. But there were new jobs, jobs associated with cars. Someone needed to create the cars. Someone needed to fix the cars. And with that came a whole new set of jobs, and people had to get prepared for that. And we have seen that throughout the world and through history. And societies that can adapt more rapidly to that change, societies that can prepare their future generations to be able to seize that opportunity, are the ones that are going to move ahead more rapidly. And that's what we're seeing right now. We're in that moment, in an inflection point in which we need to make sure that we're preparing our current workers, but also the future workers, for the jobs that are starting to exist and the ones that are going to come in the next couple of decades. So that's what brings us here. Thinking and working with the ASEAN Foundation is our partnership is centered around how do we start preparing future generations for this new set of jobs and the challenges that we're going to start facing. You can see there in that slide that more and more existing jobs and new jobs are going to require skills, digital skills. And that is regardless of the industry. We're not saying with this that everyone needs to become a software engineer and that everyone needs to go and work for technology companies. You can change the slide. But what we're going to start seeing is that, and there's a lot of research that supports this, that more and more computer-related skills are important for jobs that belong to many different types of industries. So, and regardless of the position that you're going to have. So it's becoming foundational for our education, in the same way that we all learned chemistry and physics to understand how life and how the world works. We now need to learn how the digital world works, because that's in our day-to-day life, and because that is also going to be a required skill for the jobs that are going to be there in the future. So with technology comes great opportunity, but also great challenges, and we need to prepare for that. And we need to proactively work for that. This is a region with lots of opportunity, a region that is growing, a region that will have, and that already has, a population that is very significant, a young population, which many would call a demographic surplus. So there's a lot of promise there. But in order, just if we wait for one segment of society to lead and to solve it, it needs to be the result of joint effort between governments, between the private sector, civil society, academia, and that's why we're here. And we're encouraged by the work that we're going to be starting. And I'm really looking forward to hearing from the panel and the details about our partnership, and looking forward to the progress and the impact that we are hopefully going to have in the region. So, this is a question. I think the answer is evident by the presence of all of you. There's an intent to move forward. There's an intent to start thinking about how to prepare future generations. And I just want to close, and I think we're going to skip a video that we have because we don't have the sound ready for it. But I just want to close with, oh, it's working? Perfect. I was missing from. So we have a video, and I'm not going to speak about it. I think it's better just to let you see that video, which is a little example of things that can be achieved when you inspire people to acquire skills, to think about how to apply them. Okay, we're open. Thanks for the patience. Is it gonna work? It's not gonna work? There it is. Okay, we owe you the video. What we were going to show is just an example of young women doing work and innovating throughout the region. And it's just inspiring to see what people can do when they start acquiring these skills and discovering that they can apply that knowledge to solve different problems and challenges that they see in society and in daily life. That is happening right now. It's happening around the region. We just came from Malaysia, where we saw the example of two young girls doing great work in robotics and advocating for closing the gender gap, which means we want to make sure that more young women are participating in this digital era. And I think that is encouraging, and that's what we are really looking forward to seeing here in the region. Apologies for the lack of sound. And I just want to close with a reflection from our CEO, Satya Nadella, who actually created the group that we're part of. My colleagues and I, several of us here in the room, are part of Microsoft Philanthropies, which is an organization that was created 3.5 years ago with the goal of doing work like the one we're announcing here today, in partnership with key organizations around the globe to drive inclusion, to ensure that people that are not participating in the digital era come and join and get the benefit of that as well. And at the end of the day, technology is not an end, it's just a means to achieving whatever it is all of us want to do in life and in society. And it is important for all of us to just think, what do we want technology to do? Because we have the ability to control that, which means we have our ability, or we own the ability to just shape our future and how society is going to use technology to continue evolving. Thank you very much. I appreciate the time, and I'm really looking forward to what's next throughout this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Villacorta. May I request Mr. Villacorta that you stay on the stage, please? Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, we now come to the heart of our program this morning, which is the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding of the ASEAN Digital Innovation Program between the ASEAN Foundation and Microsoft. I would like to kindly request Ms. Ilek Tan and Dr. Diana Battler to come to the stage for the signing. I would also like to request the presence of Secretary General of ASEAN, Dato Lim Jokoy, Mr. Stephen Quick, and Ms. Yvonne Thomas to join Mr. Villacorta on the stage to witness the signing.
Not ball pen needed. Digital signing. Oh, I thought you were taking a briefing. I was signing. Reverse it for a change. Digital signing.
Take a picture.
Then I will see a digital. Although I will use study my Microsoft more and more. I just took it for granted.
Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, can you please return to your seats? With that, we have now concluded the first part of our program this morning. A panel discussion session on towards an inclusive and future-ready ASEAN will follow right after this, which will be led by Ms. Elaine Tan, the Executive Director of the ASEAN Foundation, and will involve speakers from Minister of Communication and Information of the Republic of Indonesia, the ASEAN Secretariat, Microsoft, and World Bank. The panel discussion will start 15 minutes from now. Until then, please enjoy the coffee break that we prepared outside, and we will see you back here in this room in 15 minutes. Thank you. Just one administrative announcement, please. For those who haven't registered themselves this morning, please approach our colleagues at the registration desk to register yourself so we can have a proper record of your attendance. Thank you. May I have your attention, please? Mr. Franciscus Yang Chi from Urbans. I would like you to meet our official security officer at the lobby because your car is, I think it's blocking the way. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your support.
We were talking earlier.
You had to squeeze it in. I just squeezed it in, and then basically did all the rest one from the and that's where the ACC was such a good idea. Because I didn't want to go after it, but I think like going after it, and then I wasn't wanting to.
I do have some slides.
May I have your attention, please, for Mr. Franciscus Yan Chi from Urbans. Please approach the security officer at the lobby because I think your vehicle is still blocking the way. Thank you.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
You have enough time for your break this morning. We'll start the next session at 9:45. Thank you.
I froze my hand for
Actually, my brother-in-law works at Microsoft. He's the primary research manager. Yeah, he was trying to educate
May I have the attention of Mr. Franciscus Yanchi from Urbans to meet security officer at the lobby to move your car. Thank you.
Because I need education, so this kind of
What does GRZ stand for?
This is the Indonesia it's the same management.
During the time like GDP or
Then link the picture.
So it's safer for them.
Yeah. So it's like that.
Okay. No, I'm what's your first impression? What period? Well, because I went in the 20 to Mexico City. I went when I was 22.
No, just so we're posted in the building of
wasn't what I expected. When I joined, I was like, the dustiest places in the world, and I ended up in Singapore.
So your office is a part of
Jakarta.
this program.
I've been here for a year. It'll be 3 years. Right control of most regions. Dealing with
So not Indonesian long
so you keep
Hopefully.
So
if you're not ready, you're never doing stuff.
Yes. Go ahead. I'll do it from the German side.
so you're German.
Yeah, half German. So you're from Alright. So I didn't bring any of my business relatives yesterday. What should we read? What's conflict?
Since Siddiq was our colleagues, we weren't working together, so this is the first time since we were separated.
It's important to have this kind of event.
Yeah,
to
yeah.
connect with your friends.
Just US ASEAN
Come in, hey, you're in.
Did I not get you before? Yes.
You're based in Singapore. Okay. In Japan. So what is this Singapore Institute of Management?
Yes.
Okay.
I was going to look at to I'll send the look out for you. Very good.
Project center in Singapore.
Yeah.
So you're brand new to the
Support more of this. Because it's school. Jakarta is already connected with the internet. I'm going to Bali. The schools may not know what is they know what's internet, which is social media.
2 or 3 years or 3 years.
So if let's say all your
Yeah, which is very interesting. We just included the period of our contact video contact for the students.
You also have done community research study, basically it's about the R&D specific on technology. hopefully launch in
Yeah, you know.
They said that the infrastructure is much better there now.
You're Malaysian or Singapore?
Malaysian
Malaysian for India, what does it mean?
It's like African American.
Singapore got 4 grades,
Because I have a friend who's working in Singapore Power. He was working in India before, then he's working in Singapore Power, then he changed nationality to Singapore. His wife as well from Finland, Vietnamese, also changed to Singapore. Basically not in Singapore. And the university is in Singapore.
That's
Oh yeah, my wife actually studied in 2 years ago. Yeah, technopreneurship. It's part of NBS. Every 2 weeks, and the weekend, and Friday night, Two weekends. Yeah. And then Sunday night, it's not that much. But still, it's tiring. Like how many hours?
If you count from your home to your destination for 4 to 5 minutes. Mine is 1.5
Jalan ke sini-sini, so
than the of what the places where, well, it's different from all the different places that I've
Yes. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are now starting our next session, which is a panel discussion session. Let's invite our moderator today, Ms. Elaine Tan, to come to the stage. Ms. Elaine will make introduction to our four speakers for the session. Ms. Elaine, I hand over the floor to you. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. We are about to start the talk show. It's going to be on towards an inclusive and future-ready ASEAN. So I would like to invite our panelists to be on the panel. Dr. Farida Chayani from Singapore, Ms. Yong Mei Zhao from the World Bank, Yvonne from Microsoft, and Dr. Sita Samrit from the ASEAN Secretariat. So I think you can just adjust your seats because it's rather high. So we have an all-female panel this morning, which is good because last week we celebrated International Women's Day. So it's great. Since this also panel is going to be on inclusive and future-ready ASEAN, and I believe that 50% of the women hold up the world, and as you know from Leo's side just now. Youth is also a very big chunk of it, and we're very happy that we have young people here. So the objective of this talk show is going to be about raising awareness and knowledge of the audience around the importance of digital transformation for social and economic development of ASEAN countries in view of the fourth industrial revolution or the digital economy. It's also going to be about the importance of digital skills training or computer science education for educators and youth to enhance employability and drive digital transformation of the countries. I think we saw a little bit of it from the slides that were shown this morning. So I'm sure there will be questions from young people, in terms of how they can become more employable, what kind of skills that they need to have to actually drive the fourth industrial revolution. And the last thing in that sense, also what's also important is also to understand why inclusivity, particularly gender inclusion in computer science education matter. Because it's sort of like IT is very phenomenal, where we are trying to basically hire a project officer for this Microsoft project. It's very interesting that most of the applicants were male, but when we usually hire at the foundation, we usually get a lot of female applicants. And at the ASEAN Foundation, actually, there are more females than males working in the organization, partly because of the nature of our work. So it's important that we actually see and look at gender sensitivity from that. How do we actually make sure that all of us actually can participate? So when we look at ASEAN 4.0 and the transformation that's required across the region to harness the potential of digital ASEAN, digital skills and technology are at the core. So digital infrastructure must be complemented by social infrastructure, capacity building and awareness to be truly effective. So today we are here with four esteemed panelists from different backgrounds to share the perspectives and learnings as we continue on this journey towards inclusive and future-ready ASEAN. So I'll basically start by asking the panelists to introduce themselves, and I'll start with Yong Mei from the World Bank.
I'm Yong Mei Zhao. I'm the program leader for equitable growth, finance, and institutions in the World Bank for Indonesia and Timor-Leste.
My name is Farida, senior lecturer in CIT. God is coming home. Now I handle the digital talent program.
Thomas from Microsoft, specifically Microsoft Philanthropies, which is the philanthropic arm of the company. Our role is to manage our digital skills programs and partnerships around the world across about 60 countries.
Good morning. My name is Sita Samrit, and I am the head of poverty eradication and gender division here at ASEAN Secretariat.
Thank you very much, Minister. So I'll start the first question posed to Dr. Sita by asking her that, given ASEAN member states are at very different starting points on this journey of digital transformation, how do we facilitate the emergence of a single integrated market that is attractive to investments, talent and participation, and build a digital environment that is safe, trusted and inclusive?
Thank you very much for a very comprehensive question. I don't know if I have a comprehensive answer, but I think we have been talking, I listed a number of points, and I understand I have 10 minutes of it's like a talk show format. So my first point, I think we've been discussing a lot on this IR 4.0 and how it can benefit the people of ASEAN, including women. But I think first I would like to invite us to step back a bit and look at this digital evolution, IR 4.0, as something that is not intrinsically good. It can be a divisive force depending on how we decide the policy innovations and the programs for it to actually benefit people. So this might be a bit discouraging, but I think it's a good way, a careful way to look at it. And then second, to make it safe, to make it inclusive, we need a basic understanding of ASEAN and its people, right? For example, women. There's no such thing as women in ASEAN. It's not a homogeneous group. We have women with disabilities, rural women, women living with HIV, for example. How can we then address this the issue of IR 4.0 and digital economy to benefit all women, or to really target, which women, which group of youth, which group of women we are talking about? So that's my second point. And I think this issue of intersectionality, diversities have come up a lot in the policy statements of ASEAN, and also ASEAN sectoral bodies working on women economic empowerment, for example. So just to urge us not to look as women as women, because there's no such thing. And then my third point, I just go ahead really quickly. Also, to make the IR 4.0 or digital evolution to be a real opportunities for women, we cannot just address the issue of access, but we have to look at the control. There have been a study in a number of countries in ASEAN, in Cambodia and Vietnam, for example, that women have access to mobile phone. They start to have online mobile banking. And then when the husband learn, then they take control of the mobile phone. So women have access but not control. So we need to address this issue through and through. Not just the access, but also issue of control. And then I think the interesting part of this panel is to look at the digital transformation as the transformative force for social and economic development, right? And I think that's an interesting way of looking at it, because digital, whatever, IR 4.0, it doesn't happen in vacuum. It happened in the social, cultural context. Say, if women don't have mobility because of the culture, restrain them from getting mobile phones or going to the IT shop, for example, how can they benefit, even at the very first stage, right? So we need to address this in the context, not just like, oh, if digital is all good, it may be good for certain women, and this is dangerous because it can be perceived as a very urban middle class issue. And then if we are talking about not leaving anyone behind, so what's happening to rural women? What's happening to women who cannot even move because of their disabilities, right? So this is one more point. And then the last one, I think in terms of positive side, there has been evidences and researches and the real experiences of using digital innovation to prevent violence, domestic violence, for example, and to improve access to justice just by using mobile phone, getting advice on reproductive health and contraceptives and all that. And I think that's where the digital part and the socio-economic part actually come together. So for me though, ASEAN, we have a lot of plans, whether it's gender plan, connectivity plan, communication master plan, so many plans. But the gist is in the implementation, in a very nuanced and well-targeted, well-designed implementation, and the understanding of our peoples. There's no such thing as ASEAN people. There's Vietnamese, there's Thai, and then in Thailand you have a number of populations, right? So for me, my last point is it's very encouraging to have all these plans and political commitment of the ASEAN leaders, but it's more at the level of the working people, of the real people on the ground, on how can we make this digital economy or IR 4.0 a people agenda. And it's not the agenda of technology, it's the agenda for people. And I think the members in the panel can take this on.
Thank you very much for a very broad overview on some of the, sort of highlighting some of the negativities as well as how technology